They're often called eternal flowers.
Some of these plants go back to the 1940s and even earlier.
Orchids are some of the most popular flowers on the market today. Colorful,
This is something really pretty. This is called Maya's Radiance.
unique varieties,
This is your antelope variety. It's one of my favorites because they look like rabbit ears.
exquisite and often fragrant,
This is what they call Lady of the Night. And at night is when the fragrance comes out, and it's like a nice jasmine.
these regal flowers are relatively easy to care for.
You can go away and leave these plants on their own for a good week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, as long as you learn to water them properly, because they store a lot of water and nutrients. So they can take care of themselves.
Yolanda Cuesta knows what she's talking about. She's been growing and studying orchids since the late 1980s.
It's a hobby that I started because with 3 boys, you need to relax. And then it just grew into a business.
A small business she and her husband have literally grown from the ground up. They started Quest Orchids on Southwest 121st Avenue and 43rd Street in West Miami-Dade in 1994.
And now we're up to 30,000 plants, and that's not even counting the seedlings and whatever's in bottles. This is a Cattleya, and it's got to grow now for 7 years.
Taking care of an orchid plant is one thing, but growing, cloning, and hybridizing them takes knowledge.
You have to know how to grow, and you have to really like what you do, because that reflects on the plants.
Experience,
I've got some plants that I started off, my first orchid shows were maybe 4 or 5 inch pots, and they're now monsters. They're over 30 years old.
and patience.
This is salsa con coco. I made this, and this took at least, I would say, 7 years before it flowered for the first time.
Quest Orchids is open 6 days a week and offers services ranging from selling plants to exporting to creating centerpieces for businesses and special events.
I enjoy working with people, and I make orchid arrangements also. And so I really take pride in my work.
And while Cuesta has an obvious passion for orchids and loves what she does, running a small business with help only from her family and some senior citizen volunteers can be time-consuming.
The rest is just a challenge when it comes to weather. It's always very stressful. Hurricane season, we don't even like to say the word hurricane. And then we have to deal with the winters. If the temperature drops, you have to be up, because if your pumps shut down, you can lose a lot of plants.
That's why it's important to have crop insurance, but it can be costly. So when Cuesta read about the Miami-Dade County Mom&Pop Small Business Grant Program in a community newspaper, she decided to go for it and applied through District 10 Commissioner Senator Javier Soto's office.
I called and I inquired about it, and they explained to me how it worked, and I said, well, let me try and see.
Quest Orchids was awarded a $5,000 grant.
And that helped us tremendously, because that year we weren't able to pay for crop insurance. So that paid for half the policy, which was like $2,500.
She used the rest of the money to buy a much-needed thermal printer to make individual labels containing important information about each orchid plant.
Because the regular printers we were using were matrix. And with the UV being so high here in South Florida, our labels were washing out, were fading. And without a name, we really can't sell any orchids, because people like to know what they're buying.
After waiting the appropriate time, Cuesta applied for and received a second Mom&Pop grant, this one for $2,500, and used it to improve their well water irrigation system, buying a couple of extra holding tanks and liquid drops that keep the rust in the water from staining the leaves of the plants.
It doesn't really do anything to the plant, the rust. It just makes it look unattractive. And if you have a beautiful orchid like this, you want to have at least a fairly decent foliage.
Cuesta is grateful for the Mom&Pop grants and says they helped her accomplish some things in her business sooner than she would have been able to otherwise.
Small businesses like ours, that it's really a small business because there's not a lot of capital, depend on grants like that, because that's what helps you and gets you going.
For now, Cuesta plans to continue cultivating her business and giving back to the community. She hopes to receive another Mom&Pop grant to help her finish building an educational area where she'll teach school kids about orchids.
If kids are exposed to orchids, not just orchids, but any plants, it makes a better person, because you learn to respect, you learn you know, to love something that's living and beautiful and take care of it. And eventually you grow into a better person.
Here's where you can get more information about the Miami-Dade County Mom&Pop Small Business Grant Program and on the business featured here as one of its success stories.